everybody. So my name is Ben Wirz. I'm a partner with Brighteye Ventures. I'm going to give you the 2-second commercial on Brighteye, and then I'm going to let these gentlemen talk for the rest of the time. But we're a venture fund focused on education technology. We're the leading fund in Europe, which honestly is not saying very much because there aren't very many ed-tech-focused venture funds in Europe. But we've been around for about 2 years, and we invest in Europe, Israel, and the US. We've made 2 investments in Israel so far, so we're actively looking for companies, mostly at the seed and Series A stage. So that's it on Brighteye. I'm excited to be leading this panel. I was going to provide a quick framework on kind of the skills gap, the way we look at it, and then hopefully that'll help give some context to what we're about to talk about. So the first thing you have to know is that the return on education is higher than it's ever been, right? So if you look at the salary of someone with a master's degree, right now it's 2.2x. Somebody with a master's degree makes 2.2 times what somebody with a high school degree is. That's up from 1.5 times a generation ago, so that gap is increasing. The percentage of adults with master's degrees in the US has increased from 5% to 10% over that same time period. So people realize that there's this salary gap, and they're trying to educate themselves to address it. And according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the highest job growth is among professions that require a master's degree, and the second highest is among professions that require a doctoral degree. So again, the return on education is there, right? If you're actually able to get a master's degree or PhD, there's a substantial benefit to that. At the same time, there's a huge skills gap that's emerged, right? According to Manpower Group, almost half of employers say they have a hard time finding the workers they need. Most adults in Europe and nearly half of adults in the US don't actually have a college degree, never mind a master's degree, so there's a huge, they don't have necessarily the skills that employers are looking for. And many college graduates find themselves with a degree and actually still lacking the skills that they need to actually respond to employers' demands, right? So that's why you can go to a boot camp, theoretically, and spend 12 weeks and $5,000 or $10,000 and come out with more value than you could in 4 years and $100,000 worth of debt. And as probably many of you know, there's now $1.6 trillion of student debt in the US, right? So it's at an all-time high. So that's kind of the context of the skills gap, the way we look at it. And those statistics are very US and Europe focused, but that's true generally globally, certainly in the developed world. And so the way we look at the opportunity is there's really 2 big opportunities in kind of education technology. One is to help existing academic institutions use technology to become more efficient to help address that skills gap. And the other is to totally bypass traditional educational institutions and provide those skills directly that people are looking for, right? And so what's interesting about this panel, I think, is that we have people on both sides of that who are going to talk to us about how they're addressing the skills gap, either by helping existing institutions or by creating their own new educational opportunities for folks, right? So that's enough for me. I'm going to ask kind of an open question, which is, I'm not going to ask you to introduce yourself, but really just to talk about what you're doing, what your company is doing, and how you're addressing the skills gap in a way that's differentiated. So I don't know people's names. We haven't even had a chance to talk yet, but I'll maybe start on this side, and then you can skip by. So.
Yeah, hi there. Hello, beautiful education people. My name is Ilya Spitalnik. I'm the CEO of a company called Powtoon. And even though we're not directly addressing necessarily the skills gap, we've created a platform that actually addresses something very, very important in, let's call it, the education universe. And that is the 90-second attention span world. We've created a platform that allows educators to create very engaging video content just by dragging and dropping a few things onto a screen and turning an old, boring, let's call it, document into a very engaging and beautiful, piece of content that they can actually consume, learn from, and then take into, basically the job sphere. That's us.
Great.
Good morning. So my name is Avi Snir. I'm a founder and CEO of Elevation. Elevation, it's a new way to learn and stay up to date. We created what we call an educational operating system with a mission to provide lifetime employability for companies, communities, and individuals by helping them learn the most in-demand skills in tech. So basically, we're using technology in two ways. The first one is to better understand the needs in the market, the skills gap, going over all the big job websites, understanding what skills the jobs are required. And from the other hand, we have Elevation Loan, which is a platform that we developed, allowing us to teach people in a way that we believe is the best one, in a blended learning way. Actually, you're coming to physical locations, but you're learning in a more adaptive way, in your own pace, in a method that is really with a lot of data, so we know a lot about how you learn and how we can bring you to a point that you're exactly with what the industry needs today. Operating today in Israel, in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and starting to operate in Europe really soon.
Hi, I'm Darryl Simsovic, and I'm CEO of LaunchLife International. We own, amongst other things, two major franchise brands that operate in Canada and the UK. In Canada, Academy of Learning Career College, and in the UK, Pittman Training Centers. We're the largest career college networks in both Canada and the UK, and our main objective is to be able to provide people coming back into the workforce or people who didn't go to university or college the chance to get a tertiary education in a controlled environment. So all of our programs are delivered computer-based, but requiring the students to come on campus to learn in a controlled environment where we have learning coaches who are able to help the students through the curriculum. And on our learning platform, we're able to provide subject matter expertise in real time using widgets on our learning platform. So I think what we're doing is merging the best of both worlds, true hybrid online learning with this requirement to come to classrooms so that we can help our students be able to progress through the curriculum in a very structured way to ensure that they're learning.
Hi, I'm Shlomi Atar. I'm the CEO of Smore. And what we're doing, we have an extremely easy-to-use newsletter platform that lets educators communicate with the staff members, with the community, with parents in a very, very simple, clear way. The way we deal with the skills gap is we basically ask, do you really need to have all those skills to actually get your job done? Do you really need to know HTML coding? Do you really need to be a data analyst to look at your results? Or can we take technology and basically lower the barrier to let you be much more effective and get the job done? So that's our attitude about this.
Hi, my name is Yariv. I'm the founder and CEO of eTeacher. eTeacher runs and operates virtual school. We teach online in a synchronous method. That means that there is a live teacher, small group. We have about it's not a startup anymore. The business sales are about 25 million. And we have about 30,000 students learning with us from 200 different countries. Israel is a small segment of our customers. So we teach languages online, and we got into STEM education for kids. And I think that this is where we help to narrow the skill gap.
Great. So, I mean, for Yariv, for Avi, for Darryl, I mean, you guys are actually directly providing new educational programs, right? And so, I mean, how do you think about accreditation, right? Because there's these, the government has set up traditional schools. A lot of universities have been around for a while. Accreditation is a big part of kind of how traditional educational institutions think about their value. How do you guys address that? I mean, I guess starting with you, Avi, you're in it's a coding boot camp. I'm assuming it's not accredited, but just wondering, kind of how that works.
Yeah, so basically we believe in what we call industry-based credentials. We think that the universities are good if you want to do research or for other stuff, but if you really want to learn what the industry needs, you need to go to the industry. What we're doing is, for every vertical that we're teaching, for example, coding, data, product management, digital marketing, we have companies around this vertical and head of vertical from the industry, and they're the one that actually telling us what to do, and they're also kind of accrediting this program. Okay. Facebook took us in Israel to start a Facebook marketing program, and it's certified by Facebook Israel. Google AdWords, the same with Google. We have a huge program in Jerusalem that we started with Mobileye, and we actually have the VP R&D of Mobileye signed on a certificate. So it's not me or the teacher or the other people that are in Elevation. It's actually from the industry to the industry. Okay. And if I'm looking at a regular degree, it's something that I think you said traditional, but traditional, and it's people that coming from the academy and they not really understand what the industry needs today. So this will be a better accreditation and a better way also to give opportunity for everyone, because we can unbundle the question of where did you get this degree from to actually what skills do you have. Let's do the voice for skills, not looking at how do you look or where did you grow up.
Okay, wait, no, I get that, and Darryl and Yariv, I'm going to come to you in a second, but in my experience, then banks don't know what to do with that, right? If you don't have a traditional accreditation, it's harder to finance that. So just how do you address that?
I think banks, if they don't know what to do with that, so basically the talents don't go to the bank. So if you want to attract talents, you have to understand that if you see accreditation from companies, from tech, and you're looking as a bank to take a developer...
Sorry, I just meant in terms of financing. Like it's hard for a student to get a loan to go, if they don't have, if it's not an accredited program.
Yeah, so what we're doing, we came with 3 different models. Basically, if you want to go to a bootcamp in Elevation, you can pay, but you can pay it in a payments plan of 60 months, like for 5 years, or we started now in Israel income share agreements. And then you can just start paying after you find a job. And we have another model that we started in a collaboration with a company in Israel called NES, that you can actually come over to learn, and then you just need to commit to work 2 years from this company, and the company is the one that's paying for your training. So basically, we're trying to find the right models to give education and the right education for everybody, and sometimes even try to do it like some kind of a Robin Hood model between B2B to B2C.
Okay, got it. So innovation happening in the financing space. That's really interesting. So Darryl, can you talk more about,
So I think that accreditation is a very interesting subject. So we have about 150 franchise schools across the globe. Our 50-odd schools in Canada are all accredited by various accrediting bodies at the government level in Canada, and it adds a level of complexity to what we do, but equally it adds a level of professionalism to what we do. And so from my perspective as CEO of the company, and especially within a franchise network, I like the fact that our programs are accredited and regulated by the government, because there's another level of quality control that comes into play. On the negative side, we're bringing out a new program, for example, on blockchain right now, and the government doesn't know how to accredit that program because it's new. Or when we're talking about coding schools, governments don't know how to fully accredit those programs. And it also makes launch of new innovative programs very difficult. So at our UK or at our global locations, we're able to launch a program within a month. In Canada, it takes us 9 months to get the accreditation and the approval. And then Ben, you brought up another interesting point about financing. So our schools in Canada all can provide student loans to our students, and the accreditation is a big part of that. In the UK, we have to use third-party funders to provide funding to our students, and we as a company actually have to back the education process because there is no accreditation, and it makes the outside banks and funders a little bit leery about funding our type of education. So all in all, I think the accreditation process is good. Does it have to be an accredited program by government? Maybe not. Maybe third-party accreditations can work as well.
Got it. No, that's super interesting. Yariv, is accreditation, is it important for your students? Is it something that you guys look at?
No, actually, I think it's less relevant for us, so I'll pass it on to the other.
Okay, great. Well, so we're actually going to move on. So 'cause I think the other, for Shlomi and for Ilya, I think you guys, obviously you're not looking to provide direct educational services. You're really catering. You have a service that educators can use to more engage their existing students. And so the question for you is, What is driving adoption of that? I mean, what is it that educators are really looking for that you guys are providing? Is it, is it around engagement for students? Are they looking at these new competitors and trying to, compete with, the online or new direct-to-consumer offerings? Is there something else? What is it that's really kind of driving that? So maybe Shlomi, if you want to start, and then Ilya, we'll go to you. Yeah.
Okay, so we have the saying in the company, so educators are professionals. They want to do what they do. They don't want to learn all the other things that they don't need to learn because they don't have time. Now, with this, what we're doing is, lost a train of mind. I'll start again. Okay. People, when we started, we looked at educators basically like, oh, they don't understand technology, they don't know exactly what to do with it, they just teach us like we had when we were at school. But today they have the iPhones, they use Instagram, they use WhatsApp, they have all the technology all around them, and not only they understand it and know it, and they have the sense of what they want to make, they don't know how. The expectations from technology are way higher. The quality of what they expect is way higher now. So what we're seeing is, can you save them time? Can you help them do what they're trying to do anyway? And they don't need to go to a day of training. They don't need to do this, all those kind of things. They just start playing with this. They can start working with this without signing a contract. They can just start. Once they start, how fast can they feel like they're succeeding? How fast can they feel like they actually know what they're doing? And the more you close this gap, the easier it is for them to use it, love it, and also recommend it to other friends and other people in the field, which is a huge, huge, huge thing.
Got it. No, that aligns kind of with what we're seeing, which is educators don't necessarily, they're not looking to broadly, they understand that the skills gap is a problem, but they're not necessarily to broadly, looking to try to solve that problem themselves, but they have a job to do, and if you can help them do that job better, more efficiently, engage their students more, then that's really kind of more what the motivation is to adopt technology. I don't know, Ilya, is that similar to what you're seeing?
I'll tell you what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that as 2019 came in, everything changed. Nothing is the same. It's like the clock just went 1 minute across, and all of a sudden we find ourselves in a completely new world. What do I mean by that? I mean that we're in a world where 2.5 hours are consumed on average by you on your mobile device of video a day. We're in front of our screens all the time. And you know what? That brings expectations. And that also brings expectations for learning. And you expect to learn in the way that you interact with your life. We call it table stakes. I hope, I don't know how many of you know that expression, table stakes. It's a poker term. I hope not too many of you know it. But basically, you expect certain things. And the things are, you expect to be entertained. You expect to be given things in a way that you can absorb them and take them in. And you expect to be able to basically use them straight away. Now, that means that you have to be given those in a format that you can consume the way that you would like to. And we've seen, basically video is really that path, that way. So that's what we're seeing. And that's where we're enabling people that don't have that capability to actually get into, video production very easily, to teach their, the masses. Okay,
so you're seeing more change than I am, I guess, in the market. I think it's happening more gradually, but it's good to have a different perspective. So I'm gonna skip. Just in the interest of time, I think we probably have time for maybe 2 more questions, given the size of the panel. One question that's just really interesting for me is, is around motivation, because my general, the more I've been involved with education, the more I realize that, on an abstract level, most people understand that they would like to learn something, and if you could, if everybody could sort of, we had matrix-like technology where you just sat down and you could download new skills, people would be really interested in that. But almost anything worth learning takes time, and we are, as I think you mentioned, we're in a society that increasingly has a scarcity of attention. It's hard for us to focus for 20 seconds, never mind for 6 weeks or 6 months that it would take to actually acquire a new skill. And so I'm just interested in kind of how each of you is addressing the issue of motivation. And maybe Yariv, since you haven't spoken much, maybe we can start with you and just talk about how it is that you guys think about motivation for your learners.
Okay, so basically we are using technology today to get to the market, to make the business scalable, to get to a lot of customers, but the teaching itself at eTeacher is quite traditional learning. So it's a small group of students and with a teacher, and the teacher needs to be charismatic. And we have a lot of data, and what we see when we measure engagement, actually we measure the most important KPI for in terms of engagement is what is the percentage of students that are getting to the end of the course. And we measure it by many, many different dimensions. And not surprisingly, we see that it's really up to the teacher. So the good teachers, these are the ones that we see that their students getting to the end. So in many ways, we see learning as an emotional and a social process. We really believe in the leadership of the teachers and the class dynamic. And basically, I think that although we use a lot of technology to scale a business and to get to tens of millions, we think that these are exactly the same things that happen in the physical class. These are the good dynamic there is really what makes our students engaged. So no news.
That's interesting. Okay, so I mean, at the end of the day, it's back to good teachers equals motivated students. That's awesome. Okay, my mom's a teacher. She'd be happy to hear that. Shlomi, how about you? How do you think about motivation?
Yeah, my mom is actually also a teacher, so we share the same thing. For us, as I said before, we call it time to success or time to mastery. How fast can you feel like you know what you're doing or get a sense of what you're doing? Because the moment you feel this, you stop thinking that the problems are, oh, I don't understand it, so I made a problem, like maybe it's not for me. And you start thinking like, oh, I'll figure it out. It's just one of those things. So that's a huge thing for us. So how fast can we show you what's possible? How fast can you get it? That's one thing. The other thing is like role models are huge because when you see your colleagues using it and getting great success, you know that, oh, I can do it too. It's not that difficult, or, I can ask them for questions, and the community is being built, and it's really, really powerful.
Great. No, so that's great. So just usefulness and then word of mouth plays a big role. Great. And Darryl, you mentioned that you were doing some interesting stuff. I would love to hear more about how you guys think about motivation.
So we think motivation is extremely important with our student body, and we're talking about people who are coming back to school often after not having a good high school experience or losing their job and needing to retrain. We've hired Dan Ariely's behavioral economics, one of his consulting groups, to help work with us. And what we're doing we have badging for our students on certain courses, and we do A/B testing as to whether the badging helps with engagement in the programs. We've done tests of text messaging our students, of emailing our students, of looking at the data, and our learning management system can tell us when students are struggling because they've been taking extra time going through the material, and we've been sending them text messages, and we've been engaged with them actively to try to increase our graduation rate. In our industry, graduation rates are very important. And if we compare ourselves to a traditional online learning environment where at University of Phoenix graduation rates are at 14% or less on the undergraduate degree level, our graduation rates are in the 71% range. And I think part of it has to do with how we're engaging our students and motivating them. and with the learning coaches who work with the students when they're having problems. Let's face it, not every student learns at the same rate, at the same pace, and they reach plateaus in their learning. And at that frustration level, if they can get help, that's going to push them through and get them to continue. And so the combination of providing them badges, the learning coaches that work with them, and our prompts at specific times has really helped with our graduation rates, and it's what keeps us up at night.
Cool. No, that's really interesting. And 71% is amazing, so congrats on that. Avi, can you talk more about how you keep folks motivated?
Yeah, so first of all, I think that if people looking for something else, if we were talking about our product market fit, we started with really long programs. We had boot camps and part-time courses that were around 12 weeks, and we understood that the people today want to acquire education in a different way. They want it to be on the go, okay? They don't want to go to campus. They don't want to go there for 3 years. So we kind of broke down into really small modules all the big courses, and now we have what we call snackable education. So if you have motivation to do something really big or coming to a boot camp, it's great. If you want to learn something really fast and really focused, we also have that. The second point is that we think everything is around the experience. We have now collaboration with the Selena hostels. So basically, we started boot camps of edu-travel. Part of it is that people want it on the way, so we're opening locations in co-working spaces, in co-living, in communities. But if you want to change your life, so we're looking at the education on a more holistic perspective, you want something bigger. We have a coding bootcamp in Mexico. It's between 3 locations, starting in Mexico City, Cancun, and then Tulum. You're starting your morning with yoga. You're learning a new language. You're getting to know people from all over the world. Then you're learning how to code. And in the evening, I'm not going to talk about what's going on in the evening.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah, but you have a different experience for that. And we understand that motivation is really important. So we have someone in the company that is in charge on the student happiness and student success. So we took someone that he have a PhD in positive psychology, and we're trying to put all the insights also in our product, in our learning app.
Great, no, that's awesome. And Ilya, you mentioned obviously that you think people are responding more to video than ever before, and just can you talk more about that, and also how you think about kind of interactivity versus video, and yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, so it really is a question of expectations. And the expectations that you set in normal life, you carry through to nowadays, to your job, and to essentially the way that you acquire new skills and you learn new things. And so what we're seeing is specifically that, that there is a huge consumption of video, obviously. And the most successful programs are the ones that incorporate video and incorporate, the quiz-style questioning that allow you to essentially create a path to whatever it is that the skill that you want to achieve is.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's great. And I apologize. We only have a minute and a half left. So I'm going to ask you quickly. I'm hoping that the room is slowly filling up with entrepreneurs because the startup panel, I think, is next. So just if you have a 30-second piece of advice, given your own sort of record as an entrepreneur of what you would tell somebody who's kind of at the beginning of their journey, and maybe I'll start with you, Darryl, since you're in the middle. What would you give as advice?
Be passionate. Believe in what you're doing and be passionate about it, and you'll be successful.
Great. Shlomi?
I would say it takes time, especially in the education market. There's a lot of people who come and say like, oh, we're just going to sell to the districts. And then they realize the district sales cycle is like 5 years, 3 years. And so it takes time. Take your time. Understand it will take time.
Okay.
So I would say to Israeli entrepreneurs that doing education business in Israel is very, very challenging. There is no local market here. So not only that you need a very engaging and great product, you also need to be a great marketer. So I would say them reconsider doing education business in Israel. Try to do it somewhere else.
Okay, awesome. Ilya?
You only have one thing that you need to care about, and that is your customer's success. So make sure that whatever you're doing is focused on making the person that you're doing this for the most successful they can possibly be.
Great. And Avi?
I'll say break all the myths that you have in mind and build your own reality according to what you believe in. And of course, focus on the problem, but the main word is the change, I think. And remember that around education, and every edtech startup have it, we're trying to change people's life through education. It's a big mission, it's a lot of impact, and if you have it in mind when you're getting up in the morning, it will drive you all the way.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. We're out of time, but thank you.
Thank you very much.